All right. Well, thank you everybody who's joining us tonight. We are the Epicedium Paranormal team, and we have the honor and pleasure of having our Q&A tonight with television personality and author, Mr. Jack Kenna. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
We look forward to picking your brain. For those, I'm sure everybody knows who you are, but just to refresh everybody's memory, Mr. Jack Kenna has been on television shows such as Haunted Case Files and Paranormal Survivor, and he's written books such as Hauntings, Ghosts, and Demons, and Paranormal Research, a comprehensive guide to building a strong team. So we're excited to talk about all of that.
You did get the book I sent you, right?
Yes.
All right. There you go. Hey, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Now you can really ask a lot of questions. There you go. Why did you write that book? Yeah.
We enjoy taking the deep dive of the questions. So
perfect. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Awesome. So really quick, we're just going to go around and introduce ourselves for those who haven't seen our videos before. My name is Gail. I'm one of the founders of Epicedium Paranormal. And I've kind of got into the paranormal because of an event that happened to me while I was a child and, piqued my curiosity. And, my family has always kind of nurtured that, which was great. And when I met Miss Brittany at work, she dragged me into the professional form of the passion of the paranormal. And so there you go. Miss Brittany, what do you got?
So I am also a founder of Epicedium Paranormal. And same like Gail, I had my own experience as a child for several years. And ever since then, that's really just snowballed for me mentally, being like, what was that? Always being on this quest, I find, to try to understand paranormal events and other things that could be out there. So, yeah, I love investigating and love being a part of this team. You, Ronnie?
And my name is Ron. I'm also a founder of Epicedium, along with the two above me here. I guess for me, I've been interested. I've been in the paranormal almost my entire life. It's something I've always followed, trying to figure out why I've heard things or have seen things. So I pretty much have been in it my entire life, and would love to make a career out of it, but haven't done that yet.
We're working on it. We're working on it, Ronnie.
Yep.
Okay. Well, now that we've introduced ourselves, would you, Mr. Kenna, mind telling us how you got into the field of paranormal yourself?
I don't believe in this stuff at all. I don't know what you guys are talking about. How did I get into it? How did I get in? I don't know. I guess I had experiences all my life. I'm in the home I grew up in. So in this house that I grew up in, I had a lot of experiences. Nothing bad. I'd hear my name being called, and it would sound like my mother, but it wasn't. I'd go looking for it. It's like when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I'd say, "Mom, what do you want?" She goes, "I didn't call you." Found out many years later from a good psychic friend of mine, it was my grandmother, my mother's mother, who had passed away many, many years before I was even born, that it was her that would call my name, and still does to this day. I still get it every once in a while. And that's usually when I'm like laying in bed saying, I'm not going to go to work today. I take the day off. I'll hear my name. Now, then my nickname was Jay. They call me Jay, J-A-Y. So I hear that still to this day, and I'll go, Grandma, I'm not going to work today. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's okay. And then it'll stop. And then it'll finally stop. So I still get that a little every once in a while. I had some experiences growing up, which actually I talked about my whole origin story on, I think it was called My Paranormal Nightmare. And that was just on the Travel Channel, I think, last year. I think it's still airing from time to time. I don't watch them. I don't really know. I just hear when friends tell me, like, hey, you're on TV again. That's nice. That's okay. But I did tell what happened to me growing up, and my sister did too. Experience with a Ouija board, and then something later that happens. Oh, it looks like I froze up there. Anyways, then something later that happens that actually made me get out of the paranormal. I left the paranormal. I didn't want anything to do with it. That was at age 17. I'll let you guys watch the show for that one. But it was pretty frightening to me anyway. Right. So I just got out of it. Didn't want anything to do with it. Focused on all kinds of other things, fishing, the outdoors, all that good stuff. My friends, school, everything else. And it wasn't again until like till Ghost Hunters came out, and I saw that show. I was like, wow, that's really interesting stuff. I remember kind of doing that. Now I had pushed this other thing all the way out of my head, completely forgot about it, and got back into the paranormal. Met my team, Spirits of New England, that I've been part of since 2009. We met at a TAPS event up in where the heck were we? New Hampshire. And we've been going ever since. And it wasn't until a week before I got the call from Our House Media to do my origin story that I suddenly remembered what had happened to me. The reason why I remembered it, I was watching the Demon House with Zach Bagans, his, the documentary he did. You can say everything you want about Zach, whatever. He's a great showman. He's a great businessman, everything else. But I will tell you this, what he said he saw, that demon he said he saw in his dream, and they showed it, that's exactly what I saw at age 17. Exactly.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So I'm not going to say, all I can tell you is maybe he really did see what he said, because it was too much to the T of what I saw. Matter of fact, so much so that it suddenly all flooded back to me. I had to shut the show off. I couldn't finish watching.
Wow.
Wow.
So I did finally go back and watch it again, like a few weeks later. But it was just funny that a week later, Our House Media calls me and says, "We want to do your origin story." That's good. I just remembered it. So, it's one of those things. So, I mean, that's where we're at. I know I seem to be freezing up a little bit. I don't know why. So that's where I'm at. I mean, we've done a lot of stuff with Spirits in New England. Okay, good. As long as you can hear me, that's fine. We've done a lot of stuff. We investigated the USS Constitution for the Navy before Ghost Hunters ever did it. In fact, it was because of what we did that Ghost Hunters went and did it on their show. So they saw the stuff that we had found, which I think is pretty cool. And they saw the stuff that we had found when we were doing a lecture, and they're like, "That really happened?" It was like, "Yeah, we talked about it," and then they put in to investigate it. So we've done a lot of stuff. Mostly what our team does and what I focus on is residential cases. We do a lot of that. And then, over the years, I got asked to write for magazines and stuff on equipment and stuff like that, different articles, different things. And that's why I ended up writing my book, which I now use to teach classes with a couple of the local colleges. Matter of fact, they're taking registrations right now. Hudson Valley Community College near me and SUNY Schenectady near me. So I'll be teaching those. As long as I get enough people, I'll be teaching those this fall. So.
Wow.
That's awesome. And the resurgence of the interest in the paranormal, I'm sure you'll get a great turnout for that, because I feel like a lot of people watch the television shows and they get an idea and they're like, I want to dive deep into it. And then when they learn what's involved, they're like, whoa, there's a lot more to it than I thought there was.
Yeah. When you find out the real stuff involved, it's like, wow, there's a lot more than I ever thought. It's like, it's not what you see on TV. It doesn't take just like an hour,
No.
We talk about that
days,
all the time.
weeks, months, sometimes years.
I wish it did, but it doesn't.
I wish it would happen that fast. But it doesn't. But it's been an interesting journey for myself. I mean, I never thought about really doing this stuff like what we're doing now. I mean, I always wanted to investigate and stuff like that, but actually helping people is what I really like to focus on. And TV became secondary to me, really. I mean, it's just the opportunity came, it was a right fit, we did it. We thought we were going to do one show and never do it again, and I just kept getting called to come back. So that's how that panned out. They keep calling. They're like, because I think it's because I interview well, like I talk, I on those shows and stuff. So they just keep calling me. Would you do this one? Would you do that one? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And let me be honest with you. You do not get paid to do those shows, just so you know.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I figured the only thing I ever got paid for was Haunted Case Files. And that was because they were our cases. So they did pay us not much. You didn't get paid much. You get $200 an episode. That's what you got. But that was it, And but they're fun to do, And I try to educate people as little bit as I am able to through those shows. So, that's what I like about doing those.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it helps to have kind of like the more the reality of an investigation out there on TV more so than some of the more produced television shows.
Well,
So it certainly helped.
They're all produced. I mean, the fact is they're all produced.
Yeah.
And then when you go to do these shows, they ask you to do these shows, you have to realize that's the point of them for the production companies, is to make money.
Right.
Mhm.
Make it entertaining, make money from it. Otherwise, what are they doing TV shows for, right? They got to make money. So you have to realize that, but you can work with them
Mhm.
to get truth out there. I mean, like Haunted Case Files, most of those stories that we did with them, I'd say are 80 to 90% correct. The other 10 to 20% is the reenactment stuff, which they really go footloose on, you know. I mean, you know, they do. That's TV. That's you have to, it's an entertainment, medium. It's not meant to always educate. You want education, watch History Channel. Even then, right? I mean, you know, which I do watch History Channel, by the way. But you know, it's about entertainment. I mean, if the shows don't get ratings, they don't stay on. So you've got to learn how to work with that. Now, I will not just tell them something that they want to hear.
Right.
I mean, there's many times they said, "Don't you think that was a demon?" And just shake my head. I won't even say the word. And they caught on it. He goes, "You're not even going to say it, are you?" I said, "No, because if I do, you'll edit it in."
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, you got that figured out, huh?" I said, "Yeah."
They'll just dub that.
They know. I mean, if I do think it was, I would say it. You know, I don't. I'm not going to say it. You know, because I have worked on demonic cases, but there's not a lot of demonic hauntings out there. They are few and far between. It does seem, though, once you get involved with them, you keep getting dragged back into them. So then it begins to seem like there's more of them, but there's really not. You just, the focus just becomes those type of cases. But really, I mean, for 10 years I investigated, never saw anything I would have called demonic until finally I had a case. And then I recently, over this past 2 years, we worked on an actual possession case. Now, I don't do exorcisms, but I have a friend who I call in who does that. But I was involved directly with the case, and I identified the case for him and then called him in. So, and I was there to assist. But you don't ever want to be involved with one of those, really, if you don't have to be.
We've learned that lesson.
It's not that it was scary to me or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're scared for the person.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, that's really what it's about. It's, they're supposed to be horrifying and terrifying. Not to you personally, but you're scared and terrified for the person that's going through that.
Right.
It's freaky, I would say that. When you can physically watch somebody change, they physically change in front of you.
Right.
That's really weird, you know, and maybe some people would run, but you're there to help that person, and that's really what you're focused on.
Right.
You know, and the rest of it is just as a demonologist or an exorcist would tell you, no, that's just the smoke and mirrors, okay, of the demon trying to get you to leave, right? So, yeah, you just have to ignore it and just keep going, you know. So it's strange, though. It is strange stuff. I wouldn't wish those kind of cases on anybody, you know.
Right. Yeah. And it's also a matter of people. We were going to talk about this a little bit, but we'll just talk about it now.
Yeah. All right.
Because television right now has kind of been focused on the negative cases so much, and obviously they have the ratings that way. Do you think it has created kind of a fear of the paranormal? Because we now find, because we're also a client-based team, we'll get inquiries from clients and they automatically assume it's something negative. They automatically assume it's something that they need to be afraid of because of what's on television. So do you feel that affects cases for client-based teams? And do you think there's a way like we could ever get past that, honestly?
No, it always has. I mean, even when we, started all those years ago, I mean, you always had people telling you, "Oh, I got a demon in my house." Really?
Yeah.
How'd you figure that out? Oh, I saw it on I get the same thing happened in my house. What's happened on TV? Help us, God help us. Yeah. No, as long as TV and movies are out there, you're never going to get past that. People thinking they know what type of haunting they have. You have to help them get past that when you're called in. And that can take a while. And you have to sit down and talk to them and kind of educate them a little bit. And that goes back to talking to them about their faith, what they believe in, what religion do they belong to. And you've got to consider all that. It's not just always Catholic. It can be Hindu. It can be a lot of different things. We've had all those different type of people in type of cases. I've had cases involving, more than one religion in one home, which can cause chaos as it is, especially when there's already chaos in the home. So, you're always going to have that people, they see this stuff in the movies, see it on TV, and they're terrified. And then also everything they experience in their house becomes paranormal. And that's not true either. But you got to work with them. You got to work them through that. But I think it's always going to be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like one of the biggest things when we're taking cases and helping clients and stuff like that. It's trying to convince the client, and try to explain to the client, we understand that you have some issues going on here in your house, but just because the curtain might have moved a tiny bit, don't immediately jump down the road of that's paranormal. Because you just a client putting that more energy out there. Yeah. If there is something there, can definitely just make matters worse than it already is. Yeah. By having your anxiety just through the roof because the TV turns off, then you come to find out is because you had the sleep timer turned on.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. And you've got to calm them down from that. You got to bring them back from that. And that sometimes can be a challenge in itself, but you get them there. If you're willing to work with them, you can get them there and get them to realize TV is just TV. The other mistakes they start to make is if they actually do have a haunting going on, they start trying to do things they saw on TV to get rid of it. And they have no clue what they're doing.
Right.
Like I get a lot of people, I saged my house and all this. Did you open the windows? What? Yeah, you're just moving the energy around your house unless you're opening windows. What? Yeah, it's all trapped in the house. All you did was move it around. That's all you did. And that doesn't mean it's a ghost either. It can be just energy, right? Negative energy. Right. So you've got to teach them if you want to do this stuff. And you end up teaching them how to do it, and things like that. So it gets complicated, and that's why cases go on a lot more than an hour on TV. Yeah. I mean, again, most last, if you're working with clients, they last at least a couple months, at the least, sometimes longer, Sometimes I still keep in touch with certain clients. They keep in touch with us, and those were from years ago. They just keep talking to you, they're okay. Everything's fine. It's just, they want to learn more is what you find out. They keep talking to you about it. Right. I would say this. So you talk about the people, the interest in the paranormal and stuff like that. I have noticed one thing, a lot with like the younger generation. A lot of them are interested in it because they're looking for something to believe in. They're looking for what is there beyond this life,
right?
And they don't believe in the more obvious religions and stuff like that. So they're looking for something that can give them the answers they want, but they don't go to like the churches or the synagogues, or they're looking for something else now. So I have come across a lot of that. And I think that's why there's a big interest in the paranormal too. It's because this younger generation is looking for a faith of some kind to believe it, something that can give them answers beyond what the normal avenues are.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I do feel like in the past 20, 30 years, there's been a large stigma and kind of there's been kind of a bad rep given to organized religion in a way.
Absolutely.
And so people are they're still looking for the answers. They might not believe in the religion, but maybe just not the organization of it. And they're just kind of looking to figure it out on their own.
Right. That's why I always say there's a difference between religion and faith. You can have faith in something. You can have faith in anything, right? I could have faith in my glasses, right? I can have faith. They are going to see me through everything.
But I'm fine.
So, I mean, yeah, exactly. But you can have faith in anything, but it's not necessarily a religion, right? But you have to, and I do tell people who get involved in the paranormal, that's part of my class, is talking about what do you have faith in that's going to protect you when you go to investigate,
Right.
Because you have to have faith in something, because it's a spiritual realm that we're talking about. We're talking about a human soul, or a non-human soul, or something else that potentially could interact with you. So you have to be grounded in something in order to protect yourself, right? That could be anything from Wicca to witchcraft to whatever, as long as it's on the positive side of things. I always tell people, stay on the positive side of things. Personally, I'm Roman Catholic. I mean, that's my faith. That's what I grew up with. That's how I was raised. That's what I still believe in. I don't necessarily believe in every single thing the church puts out there. I know I'm supposed to, but I don't. But only because of my own experiences now within the paranormal, and I've looked at things and looked at it a different way. So, and that's what I think people are trying to look for. They're looking for that something to have faith in, and you got to figure that out for yourself and decide what works for you or what you can believe in. But I always tell them, just keep it positive, whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree.
And that is kind of the most important part of finding a solution for them, because the intent behind the techniques you give them is what drives it to become successful. So if they don't believe in it, it's absolutely of no use.
It doesn't work at all. Right. If you have no faith in it, you're just doing it to do it. It's not going to do anything. Matter of fact, it could make things worse.
Oh yeah.
There's potential there. So that's what you got to work through, people. And a lot of times with clients, that's what you find out working with clients, is they were like raised a certain way, but they really never followed it. So they're not sure what they believe in. They become almost agnostic in a way, or, it's like, you got to pick some, if you're not sure, but you do want to connect, try starting with how you were raised. If it doesn't work for you, fine, move to something else. But I've had people also combine. They say, well, I'm Wiccan, but then they'll combine Catholic rites with their, praying to Christ or whatever, combining with their Wicca beliefs. And no, you can't do that either. Choose one or the other. You can't pray to the God and Goddess one day and pray to Jesus Christ or Saint Michael the next. Doesn't work. You're combining. You've got a collision there. So you've got to pick which way you want to go and decide to go that way. You can combine rituals with praying to one type of deity, but keep it that way. All right, keep it that way. I mean, even the Roman Catholic faith was founded out of some paganism. So I mean, there's a combination there anyway, right? But they just use certain rituals that came from the pagans into the Catholic Church, because Constantine was a pagan himself, and he was trying to bring the pagans into the Catholic Church because his mother was Roman Catholic. So, being an emperor, you got to play the political game, right? So, so he did it a smart way. He combined those two to bring them together. So, and it worked for the most part. So, I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's kind of just the basics of it. But
that's a whole other
mix
conversation.
And mingle religions, though. Don't mix them; it can go bad. So,
so that's definitely like one technique to use. One of the factors in a technique to use when trying to help a client. So, kind of taking a dive into other techniques that you potentially utilize. We do have some questions about that.
Go ahead. And I've been talking a lot. I tend to do that, just so you know, but
that's fine.
That's perfectly fine.
If you have a question, cut me off and just go for the question.
No worries. We're going with the flow.
For you then. Say, okay, all right.
We're going with the flow here, so don't even worry about it. I think, Ronnie, you had our first question in regards.
The biggest question I had was is your because you have a background in engineering. Does that impact anything on your beliefs or your techniques when you're going in to help a client, when you're going to try to, do anything in the paranormal? Does it impact anything for you when you go in there?
Well, it doesn't impact my beliefs. I mean, I believe what I believe, but it does help out with knowing what some of this equipment we use, what it was originally designed for, what we're trying to use it for. you know, and how it can work. Okay, how it can pick up different anomalies and things like that. So working in the engineering field and knowing that equipment, because a lot of it actually we use at work for different things we do, different testing and stuff like that. So I know what can influence a lot of it. I know how you can eliminate certain things to make sure something else isn't influencing it. And the fact that it's like anything else. You test this equipment out and you try different things with it. Even the apps. I use a couple apps and stuff. And I used them for years before I ever really took them and said, hey, this thing really works. I just collected data, what I call data from it, and compared that data with data from what we were catching on EVPs and what we're getting here. And you look for that commonality between those different types of devices and the information you're getting from them. And I did find correlation between words that would come through like the Ghost Radar app that I use and EVPs we were capturing at the same time. Or different things that coming off of that that device combined with other equipment we were using. So it's never just one piece of equipment either. You know, you got to look at that combination. But people do ask me, well, don't you find a conflict in, you know, you work in engineering, but you work in this kind of spiritual, metaphysical world. And to me, it's like, no, I don't see the conflict. I can see where one can help to validate the other, you know, and I work with that. But I don't really see a conflict. Just like some of my books I've written fiction, and I've also written, you know, my book on real investigating and stuff like that. And in some of even the fiction book, I've taken some of our actual cases and, like TV, played them up a bit to make it more interesting, right? Yeah. But the real techniques and the real things we did are in there, as well as actual evidence we captured in some of those stories. But people say, well, don't you think there's a conflict there, that you're writing fiction at times, but, you know, and then you're also writing this book that's how to really investigate? Don't you think some people will say, well, that's all bogus. He's just making it all up. I see the difference when I read the two books,
right?
You know, and I make it very obvious. This is fiction and this is not. So, you know, maybe that makes me a better writer in some ways. I don't know. But I did find one strange thing with Hauntings, Ghosts, and Demons, which I wrote to be kind of a fun book, just a fun read, is that investigators who read it said they got techniques out of it.
There you go.
Which I did write how we do things into it, our techniques we use and stuff into it, which I wasn't thinking about that at the time, though. It just fit into the story. So, you know, so it's just funny that somebody actually did get useful information out of it besides just something fun to read. So interesting. You know, I found that interesting. But faith and I will say this, back to your question, Ronnie. I'll say this: people are out there trying to prove the existence of the paranormal, right? With all this equipment, right? The problem is you're never going to do it with just equipment. It's a spiritual realm, right? We're talking about human souls. You have to consider that aspect of it and find a way to bring that into it in order to prove what you're trying to prove. The existence of the afterlife, right? The existence of a soul. Really, to me, that's really what you're trying to prove. Right. So you can't just look at the equipment to do that. You can't. You've got to look at the rest of it too, and you got to somehow bring it in to combine it. Right. So I'll leave it with that. Did I answer your question? I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm actually glad that you brought up the whole thing with the apps that you can have on your phone and stuff. Because honestly, until you just said something, I've always downloaded them, but I've never believed in them. I'm one of those type of investigators, especially when helping clients. I think more of myself as the piece of equipment than the equipment that's being used. With what I feel, I see, I hear, you know, so on and so forth.
And you still have to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I was just happy because, you know, I've always wondered about those apps. I always thought they were just, you know, snake oil and that was it.
No, they're not. Actually, well, some can be. All right, some are. You've got to pick one that you think you want to use and test it.
Yep.
which means you just run it along with the rest of your equipment and do all. But then you do the after review and see is there anything that connects with the other stuff, the EVPs we captured, or the video anomalies we captured, or even the history of the location.
Mhm.
Did anything come through there that would indicate that, or we get any answers that would potentially indicate that, oh yeah, hey, that actually matches what we know of the location. You've got to do that in order to say if it really works or not. And I spent 7 years doing that with just the Ghost Radar app before I decided, yeah, it works. You know,
Right.
7 years. Yeah. I would bring on investigations, use it. And I will admit, as I got into like the third, fourth year, it's like, I think this thing really works. So I just kept going with it, but I didn't present anything from it as evidence to anybody. Not until after like into the 8th year, and I started saying, look, here's something we found. We had this happen. We captured this on this device at the same time. It's just another piece of the puzzle that added up to what the haunting was about. So,
Right.
yeah. But you got to test the stuff, and you got to use it correctly.
Right.
Like if you're using a phone app, make sure the phone is off. I mean, is in airplane mode. You don't want any incoming, outgoing signal. Make sure the other apps aren't running. You know, nothing else is running in the background. That's the only thing you want running, besides maybe if you want to use an audio recorder from your phone, right? Then you're fine. But yeah, you just got to use it properly. And I actually called and talked to the guy that created it. He actually, the Ghost Radar one was based on a similar algorithm as the Ovilus.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, he just did a few more things with it. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, all these things, if you look at any of them that these guys create, there's always this disclaimer for entertainment purposes only.
Right.
Everything says that, because they can't tell you can communicate with a ghost.
Right.
So,
well, that's where you can't rely on equipment only or experiences only on an investigation. You have to have them validate each other in order to be able to even present it to a client. You know, if you only have one thing happening, you can always chalk it up to, oh, it was malfunctioning, or this person had an experience we can't know for sure. But if you had them both happen simultaneously, it's kind of hard to not put some kind of backing behind that.
That's right. That's right.
And you also brought up another good point, which kind of leads us into our next question. You mentioned the history of the property. And we always kind of have this internal, not debate, but conversation about research on a case, because obviously it's important to know the location and the client and any potential outside factors. But at what point do you feel like research can start almost causing a bias for an investigator when walking into an investigation? Like if they know, oh, there was a suicide on the property, they're going to be looking for that to come up somehow in the investigation, you know?
Yeah, I mean, some things you just get told by the client anyway.
Right.
So now you've got that information. So it can help you in some ways by knowing like the name of a person, things like that. Or it sometimes can help you by knowing, all right, there was an accident on the property, so somebody committed suicide on the property. It does give you the chance to try to go that route and reach out. But you don't want to spend your whole time investigating on it. Don't allow yourself to get pigeonholed into believing that, oh, the suicide, that's what's haunting. No, don't do that. I mean, it's good to know it. It's good to have it. It's good to even try to reach out to see if that's what's going on. But don't spend your whole night investigating around that. You know, actually, I'll get a lot of information from people, and I'll just keep it in the back of my head. And when I walk into an investigation, I don't expect anything. I just make an assumption that, all right, they're telling me this, but I don't know. I don't live there. I've never been to it. So I'm just going to walk in, going to start an investigation, talk to them a little bit more, and then we're going to investigate some things and just see what happens. And just one kind of basic question I like to approach with is, well, I guess it's not so much a question, but I go in and tell them who we are, talk to whoever's potentially there or not, or just say, hey, we're here to talk to you. I'm really here to find out about you and what you're trying to talk about. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to tell us? What's important to you?
Right.
And then we begin to try to communicate with whatever might be there, right? So I take that approach, and I don't pinhole myself to one thing. I don't typically take the notes with me, just so maybe I will forget something, and maybe it'll show up, and I can go back and go, oh, wow, hey, I made contact there. Because I'm probably going to go back more than once anyway, to be honest. So now if I go back and review stuff and I catch something and there's something I forgot about, but hey, that name is there, or there's something relating to that incident we were told about, or that history, that's like, oh, well, maybe if we go back this time, we should focus on that a little bit more. That's okay. It's okay to have information. You just can't let it bias you. I don't know if that makes sense, but you can't allow yourself to be biased by it. I mean,
Right. Like you see a lot of, I hate to bring it up again on these television shows, they research the property to death, and they walk in, they find out about a specific family from like the 1860s, and they walk in and every question is, hey, Mr. Smith, like, how are you doing? Like, is this you? And it's like, why are you asking him specifically? It could be anybody.
It could be.
Know?
I mean, and again, I would say that's okay, but don't spend your whole investigation trying to contact them. Right. Try it maybe for an hour, see what you get, let the rest of the team, if they're investigating other locations, take a different approach and just do a more general approach, or, but don't spend your whole time assuming that's what it is, because you really don't know.
Yeah.
You really don't know. And you don't want to waste an investigation just trying to find out something that maybe isn't there. Right. So, I mean, there was an investigation we did at a library in Massachusetts where they said, oh, well, this old librarian, she died here and blah, 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 blah. And you would want to maybe think, oh, it's the librarian. You keep focusing on that. But there was something else they had told us about. Part of the building was rebuilt from an old train station. They took the bricks, because it was the same type of brick. And when they tore the train station down, they used that brick and built another section of the library on. We get in there and we just start talking about stuff. And actually, it was funny, through the Ghost Railroad, or the Ghost Radar, we got railroad, we had trains, and we started. And then suddenly I remembered what they told us about. This section was built from the old railroad. Maybe somebody or something came along with it. So we started asking questions about that, and we actually had more information come through. So obviously it had nothing to do with the library, it had to do with the old railroad. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keep open. Remember some things you're told if you can, but keep an open mind and don't just always focus on one thing all night, Yeah.
And you can always have an spirit there who's intelligent enough where it's like some guy named Eric and he's like, oh, they think I'm Mr. Smith, so I'm just gonna mess with them.
Yeah, they
and make
do
them
that
think
too,
it's
right?
Mr. Smith.
Yeah. Till you get enough information that you find out it wasn't Mr. Smith.
Yeah. He's standing there laughing, being
it
like,
was
look
Larry.
Larry
the cable guy came through.
Yeah.
I've had investigations. I've had investigations at locations where there was somebody attached to one of the people there, a family member who was trying to reach out to one of the people that was there, and that's what really came through. And it had nothing to do with the location at all. It had to do with somebody recently passed trying to reach out to their family member. So you just never know. You just don't know. So keep an open mind.
For sure. Because these things can be not only attached to a location, it could be attached to an object. Like you said, a person. It could be really anything. Like that's why we always tell people, if you're going antique shopping, like at an antique store, be sure to cleanse it before bringing that in your house. You don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. I mean, it could have a real attachment to it. And even cleansing it's not going to get rid of it. But
it'll help.
what I usually do with something like that, I leave it in my back hall or in my garage for a few days, just to see if anything strange goes on out there.
Yeah.
And I've never had it happen, but just in case, just leave it in the back hall.
Yeah.
If things start moving around in the back hall, or I start getting weird noises, maybe something's going on with that. I should check that out. I have done one of that with stuff people have sent me. I mean, people send me stuff sometimes, and it's like, or they say, can you take this with you? Yeah, I can take it. I'll leave it in my back hallway. for at least a week, and wait to see what happens. It's okay. Give it a week, you know.
Yeah.
And then
Take
I'll still
Polaroid
listen to
pictures.
stuff before I bring it in the house. I don't care. I'll just do it anyway. You know,
That's great.
just to be on the safe side. So, but I haven't really run into anything that had, you know, an attachment to it. You know, as far as an item. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, when we spoke to Stephen Lancaster, he's, you know, he brought that doll into his house. I don't know if you're familiar or not. He was just like, whatever. I just bring it inside and see what happens. And I'm like, good for you, man. Good for you.
Yeah. If you want to, go right ahead, man. That's it. Okay.
Right.
Have fun.
Well, that is one thing about an attachment, though. If it is attached to that item, no matter where you move that item, it's likely to stay attached to it, unless it changes its attachment to you. Then you got a problem. You know, then you got a problem. You know, but I prefer to just leave in my back hallway for a while. That's all.
That's a good technique.
I like that.
Or the garage, whichever. You know,
Right.
the back hallway, because I can hear things moving around if something is happening. You know, it's like, oh, stuff is getting moved around. That's not good. Knocks on the door. You never know.
Put a motion sensor up, see what happens.
Yeah, whatever. You know, whatever. Again, I've never had anything, so luckily.
Yeah, that's good.
I've never, I think about it. I've never had a case where I've had something that had an attachment.
Really?
No, I've never had an item that had something attached to it. No.
It's probably not as frequent as we all think it is. Just like the D word. It's not as obvious as you think it is.
Right.
Although John Zaffis might disagree with you on that one. I don't know.
True.
I know
I
John,
mean,
I know
if you
John and he does get a lot of strange stuff sent to him. So that's what you get for being the wanted collector, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. If you advertise it, sure, it's going to come to you.
If you had a show on you about it, they're really going to get sent to you. You know?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
It just depends. It just depends on where things come from and whether somebody really believes it is or not. Sometimes that's enough to create something. You know? You know,
yeah, maybe it happens.
A belief in it in itself. Yeah. I've looked at it haunted.
With his connection to the Warrens, I mean, you have no idea if maybe they just like passed it along to him, like, here you go.
Well, he's only got a few of the things. The rest is her daughter and her husband have. So that's still a whole Warren collection. That's a whole nother collection. You know.
Right.
Yeah. So Annabelle and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a whole nother story.
That is a whole nother story. Just another haunted item. That's what it is.
Yeah. Britt, I think you have the next question that we have.
All right. So do you think it's possible to discern what energy is coming from a haunted location versus maybe other paranormal investigators that have been through that location many times over?
I see. So you're saying, let's say the Hinsdale house, for instance. Tons of people go through that place, right?
Yes.
So you're asking me, can you discern what's the actual energy at the location compared to what energies have been left behind by other people? Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, there is a way to do that. But that goes with not just knowing the history of the location, talking to the people that originally, and well, I didn't talk to them directly, but at least listening to like interviews with the people who originally lived there. Mm-hmm. Okay, and knowing what they experienced and compared to what other people say they experienced. I have been to the Hinsdale house several times with regards to that. But there is, I mean, a lot of locations, like you could say, okay, like any of the main well-known haunted locations, right? Mm-hmm. I don't investigate a lot of those. In fact, I've only done two, Hinsdale House, and I also did, what's the one out in Western New York? Rolling Hills Asylum. Okay. That's the only two well-known locations I've ever been to. Everything else is residential cases, and we've done a ton of those. You know, I would say with the exception of USS Constitution, which is a pretty well-known location, and it is haunted, by the way, and the Navy will even admit to that. But by knowing what the history of that those types of locations are, you can feel those different types of energies. Yeah, I mean, with the Hinsdale house, it's more of, it really is more of a, I don't want to say, it's an elemental type energy. Okay. It really is more seated in elemental type haunting. It's interesting though, because I think over the years, the house itself has become sentient. And I say that because of my own experiences there. The house is self-aware. Why is that? I don't know. It could be because of the ground it is sitting on, and the fact that there is elemental spirits there, and they've basically kind of possessed the house in a way. But it's something interesting about that place. If you ever do go there, I tell people this: think about one thing you want to experience while you're there. Just one. Don't say it. Don't tell anybody else about it. Write it down on a piece of paper. Put it in your pocket. See if it happens. I've had it happen to 9 out of 10 people every time I've been there.
Wow.
The house will give you what you want. It may not give you more than that, but the house will let you experience typically that one thing you wanted to experience.
So you kind of like, it kind of focuses on the manifestation in a way, like
in a way, and it may not give it to you in the way you think.
Rarely does.
Well, I'll give you my own experience with that. I did that, and I said, mine was a little bit more complicated. I said, sometime during the night, this was like, I said this at like 1 a.m. as we're going to bed. I want to see, because I was staying in the bedroom that's down off the kitchen, and the doorway was open. And I said, I want to see a dark figure come down the stairs at some point during the night. Then at some point, I want to see the bathroom door open and close on its own. Okay. Don't ask me why. 3 a.m, I wake up. I'm looking out. Here's this dark figure starts coming down the stairs.
Wow.
Black figure just coming down the stairs. It turns to the right. Guess who it is? It's one of my investigators with their black sweatpants on, but we have one of our sweatshirts that has our logo on the back, and when she turned, the logo was on the back. I said, son of a bitch. You see her go into the bathroom, and you see the door close, but you can't see anybody closing it just because of the way it was situated.
Yeah.
I got what I wanted, just
That's
not
so
the way I thought.
Wow.
It gave me exactly what I asked for, but just not the way I had thought it was going to happen.
They were like, all right.
Came down the stairs, all right. Yep, pitch black. No flashlight, nothing. Yeah.
They were messing with you.
So the bathroom door closed, looks like on its own. So,
the house was like, let's watch his face when this happens. Let's just watch.
Yeah, the house was like, yeah. I was kind of freaked out when I saw it coming down the stairs. I'm like, holy shit, it's actually happening. Never mind. Oh, bastard.
It's like asking a genie for a wish. You got to make sure you word it perfectly.
Right, exactly. Word it perfectly. I want to lose weight. Poof, you're a skeleton. There you go.
Oh my God.
That's not what I wanted. You didn't say. So there's, there are crazy places like that. When you get into some places, it can be harder because sometimes people will bring like Ouija boards in or things like that, and they'll bring something else into that location, and now that's there. It wasn't originally there, but you usually can feel out the energy of a location. Like I said, with Hinsdale, it's more of an elemental type feel to it. Rolling Hills, it's just that psychotic, that mentally ill, that crazy energy, not crazy in that it's crazy, but it's a lot of anxiety, a lot of interrupted thought. Okay. You can pick up on that energy. And sometimes it can make you feel that way right there. So you can begin to lose track of thoughts and things like that. As you start communicating with what's there. So you got to be a little careful sometimes too. So, but you can feel the energies, and the energies from people who are left behind. Not a lot. I don't think always gets left behind, to be honest with you, or it's not there long enough so that it in other words, it kind of dissipates after a period of time. But the energy that's there, or the spirits that are there, I think they kind of suck up that energy and make it their own, right? So they're using it, right? So I don't think you get a lot of other energy left behind, and unless you have somebody who's been there for a very long time, you know, and spent a long time there, like the people that own these places.
Right.
Okay. Some of their energy is getting left behind now. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey guys, we hope you're enjoying the first half of our interview with Jack Kenna. It certainly has been interesting so far, and there's so much more to come. So please be sure to click subscribe and the little bell so that you get notified when the second part of the interview is posted. Stay tuned and stay curious.